So there's a misconception that if you're single, you are incomplete, perhaps damaged, salvaged, and you won't be happy until you find your one. And that is not true. That is bullshit. It is a message that has been fed to us by media and advertising. The truth is, when you're single, you have the richest soil for growth. That's why I created this podcast. And unlike other podcasts, this one is host-driven, not guest-driven. That means I will be rotating health and wellness experts 3 times a week to give you the giant box of wellness crayons, not just the primary colors, so you can start building a meaningful life. It's time to give singlehood a cape. Today's host is someone I go way back with. His name is Sean Cardinalli. Sounds like a baseball player. He's a coach, writer, and activist who returned to coaching on sex and love addiction at the outset of the pandemic after a 4-year hiatus. He speaks the language, and his coaching style tends to lean toward 12-step recovery, which saved his own life and livelihood 14 years ago. He's also very transparent. Sean earned his local certification through Linda Bark's holistic coaching methodology and is pursuing his ICF certification and a degree in social work. So beyond sex and love addiction, Sean's practice focuses on intimacy, relationships, divorce, dating, and the creative process. Enjoy Sean Cardinalli.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Sean Cardinalli, and I'm here with Gabriela Escalante. How you doing, Gabby?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well. Don't let me call you Gabby again. I like Gabriela, but you do go by Gabby a lot with friends and family, don't you?
Yes, and I do like Gabriela. Now,
Okay.
I didn't used to.
Was it a thing as a child?
Yes, definitely. But I've learned to actually really love my name.
Good, yeah. It's kind of a Hollywood name, Gabriela Escalante.
I
Like it should be in a movie.
love that.
Thank you for coming on today. It's me, Sean Cardinalli, sex and love addiction coach, relationships, divorce, etc. I've done a lot of work in the past with John Kim, with the Angry Therapist and the Tat Lab, and now we're on this nice series, Gabriela, called Single on Purpose, which follows the pattern and the themes and tropes of John's book, Single on Purpose. Mm-hmm. So I know that we're going to introduce to you and give you some airtime here and learn about how you coach and what and why and how. And it seemed like the stuff that I saw that you were doing out there, putting out into the world, was kind of right in line with that relationship health and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, I'm Gabriela. I am a certified life coach, and I've currently niched down to be a relationship coach, which relationship coach meaning for all the singles who are, looking into dating, getting into relationships, but also people that are in relationships as well. And working on that relationship, which is the most important one, with yourself. And usually I feel like that's where a lot of the issues come from, is just that relationship that we have with ourselves. And I have to say, I love the title Single on Purpose, because I feel like a lot of people are scared to be single. I totally love that, because
why do you think they're scared?
I think
I ran over your words there.
Oh, no, you're totally fine. I think a lot of it is just, the fear of just being lonely and not knowing what to do with yourself, especially when you have an unmanaged mind. I feel like you're scared to be alone in your thoughts. You're scared that maybe, you might never ever find anyone, that you're not enough, people's biggest fears. And, but I think it all comes down to really just the scared of just being alone.
It sounds like some of what you were mentioning sounds like catastrophizing, right? Like one thing's wrong.
Oh, yeah.
And suddenly you think everything's wrong. I'm never going to be married. I'm never going to be partnered. And then it goes down the line. For my brain, the job, the sex life, the love life, the family, right? It's all the big ones. Family, love, money, big time. So,
oh, yeah. Yeah. And especially too, I feel like if you're seeing that people around you are all, getting married, having kids, doing everything, and you're out here still single, I feel like it brings a little bit of just, insecurity and just, um, that wanting and desire of wanting what other people have and thinking, what the heck is wrong with me? Why can't I have that yet?
Mm-hmm. Early on.
Which is not the case at all. But I feel like a lot of us, our default brain goes to thinking that.
Yeah, it's too bad we make those kinds of comparisons, right? Like just like you
Mm-hmm.
say, default, almost knee jerk. I had a, it was either therapy or 12 step, whichever one it was. But I learned early on, don't compare my insides with other people's outsides. But
Yes.
it's so easy to do though, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like they look great, but we forget that, people just walking around in their lives, doing their jobs, in
Mm-hmm.
the car next to you, in the buildings, in the churches, in the homes, wherever you are at work, shit's going on in their lives too. And I'm not
Oh,
saying that
yeah.
cynically, like everybody's fucked up.
Right.
People,
There's some truth to that.
everybody does have shit to, everybody does have shit to work on. But
Yes.
I think it doesn't have to go so extreme as like the work that I deal with, like addiction or compulsion or anything like that. But we all have
Right.
some to work on. And I think
Mm-hmm.
too, a part of what you're mentioning is, I always think of one, not comparing, like I said, insides and outsides, which for some reason our lizard brain just loves to do. But then also,
Well, and with
sometimes,
social media too.
Mhm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. See, here we
No,
go.
it's going to be like this for a half hour. The
Right?
sound editor, Brandon, the sound editor, is going to be like, what the fuck am I going to do with all this audio?
But yeah, especially now with social media and like not just comparing, your people are comparing their lives to other people, and they're wanting to have that perfect Instagram life, that perfect Instagram family, and social media has really been huge when it comes to like people getting stuck in the comparison trap.
When it typifies the exact thing we're talking about, it's specifically so. I mean, we make highlight reels, we make stories,
Mm-hmm.
they're
Yeah.
highly edited and what do you call it, curated, right? It's not, well, in some of the work that you and I do, and I know that definitely the work. Well, I won't speak for you, but I've seen your reels, I've seen what you put out there, I've seen your content. We'll get to that too, because
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell your superhero origin story and get into why you got into coaching in the first place. But with the stuff that
Yeah.
you put out, I think a lot of the stuff that we do, if we're talking about relationships, intimacy, vulnerability, sex, love, coupling, that you are going to get into the warts and all stuff. And so my shares, and I think some of what I've seen from you, it is more vulnerable. It is more like, ooh,
Oh yeah.
that's not exactly the like glossed over Kim Kardashian, perfect little Instagram share. It's like, nope, here for the real shit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And sometimes that can be hard for people, but I think it's super important, especially when you're trying to build that trust with people and, wanting them to see that you're freaking human too. And you're going through the same things that they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's like, we're all in this together and we're all in here to better ourselves. And it's, I don't have the perfect life. And we have more similarities than people think.
You have very specifically at times popped up because you remind me of John Kim a little bit, because you have so much content coming out. You're like, to me, it seems like you've mastered this social media thing quite a bit, and like there's always something out there. And then we were either texting or IMing or something the other day, emailing, and I was like, you're sitting on like a pile of content. You put content out like daily, and you're like, yeah, all the stuff I haven't even put out yet. I'm like, what the fuck? When did you like time travel to like get all that recorded? That's insane. That's insane. So all that said, though, sometimes you'll jump in very clearly and be like, I know I come on with all this energy and positivity, and I don't mean toxic positivity, but positivity and encouragement, but my shit's real too. And then you'll show like outtakes or, like explain
Oh
a
yeah.
bad day or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's definitely important. And the key to all of that, to the content thing, is batching your content. That's what I do. It's a game changer.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I have not yet nailed that down. I'm all sporadic and everywhere. That's why I do lives and then just record.
Yes.
It's just easier for my ADHD brain instead of sitting for hours. But that said, I thought This is funny, but this is how we'll go into your story, because I thought you were going to say not batch, but the key to it all is vulnerability. But you're like, no, you're being very entrepreneurial, which is here's how we can segue into your origin story. You and I became acquainted through high impact coaching.
Yes.
And I characterize that because I have a certificate from somebody else, from Linda Bark. It's this holistic coaching, and then I want to get my International Coaching Federation, like cert, my global cert. So that's like, okay, nice little stamp of approval, like better housekeeping, right? And all that, better business bureau type shit for coaches. But HIC for me reminded me of like an entrepreneurial take on coaching. And I don't mean that cynically. And so that's where I became acquainted with you. And is that when you first jumped in? Tell us how you got into coaching, what brought you there.
Yeah. So when what brought me into coaching it's an interesting story, because I never really decided, okay, like I want to be a life coach. Like, this is what I'm going to do. It just kind of like fell into my lap. And it was after my last breakup. So my last relationship was where I really started applying a lot of these things. And we can go into this later on more about talking about masculine and feminine energies, but that's where I experienced being more in my feminine energy and just really starting to open up a little bit more, changing my mindset, and really just becoming a different person. And so, as I was going through some group coaching myself, I was starting to help my friends. And one of my friends suggested, like, Gabby, you should be a life coach. Like, I remember that call so clearly, because she was like having an anxiety attack. And within a few minutes after I was like talking to her, like she was totally calm, like super, like was able to think logically. And she was like, whoa. And I remember, like, as I was like talking to her, like I was like, I almost felt like it wasn't me talking, because I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying, but this is good. Like, this is good stuff.
It was channeling. You were channeling. It was
exactly.
You were just the cool.
And so I was like, and you know how your phone hears you whenever you're like talking, and then I started getting all these ads for life coaching and training and all of that. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try it. Like, what is it going to do? So I got this course, and I started going through the course, and I liked it, but it wasn't like, I did not feel ready to be coaching people. And so then I got certified through that program, but then I went through a different program, and I totally fell in love with that one. So I started practicing with my family members, practicing with people, and I started just really feeling the transformation within myself. And so I was like, you know what? Like, I really like this. I'm just going to go for it. That's when I ran into high impact coaching. I got into there. I remember with the first day that they introduced you into the group, and they talked about what you were doing, or you went on there, you did your live. And I was just like, oh, I love what he's doing. I was so like magnetically pulled to you, because and I think I even reached out and told you or I don't know, maybe I just thought it, but I remember thinking, like, I love what you're doing. I feel like it's important and it's very needed. And so that's when I just kind of started, I think I added you on there at the time. And then just seeing your things, I'm just like, I love that you are really good at just showing your personality, like who you are. Like, thanks. Every other word is a swear word, but I love that you're just like, you're being yourself.
I'm sorry if every podcast and almost every conversation I have to apologize if someone new that you are going to hear some colorful language, but I'm glad you reached out. And I mean, similar to you, I mean, your relationship coaching, and like you said, we'll get to the masculine and feminine in a little bit. But I mean, it has to, I don't know any other way. John Kim, author of, Single on Purpose, he has for years, well before that, like even with his earliest books, he has this catchphrase, casual, not clinical, or casual over clinical. And
Oh,
that's where I mean, you speak pretty, fluidly and just naturally. And, we decided to do this podcast because we were just like bullshitting. Like, we got to record this. We got to
yeah.
it's a good conversation. We got to record it and share each other's coaching experiences and see what we can share with others who are listening in. And, so I totally dig that casual over clinical thing. It's not like lay back and tell me about your mother and father. It's not old school psychoanalysis. For one thing,
Right.
I'm not a therapist. I'm just a coach.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I think you have that approachability too, and that just naturalistic style as opposed to anything too coarse or cold or calculating.
Yes.
And so I think that's a strength of yours as well. And so speaking of that, was there anything specific? And I'm not gonna grill you. I'm not trying to do that, but was there anything specific in that relationship or the demise of that relationship that then sort of clicked as far as what can I do? Was it your own work on yourself, and then and then you saw how some of what you were applying for yourself worked with your friends, or what was the transition from what's the relationship between the coaching and the end of that relationship, like the bridge, if any? If any,
Well,
if not,
I
then tell me to shut the
definitely,
fuck up.
no, actually, I can think of a very specific thing. So I don't think I've ever shared this. But I remember so I'm in law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement for quite a bit. That's going to be 8 years next month. And I had been wanting to do something different, right? I had been wanting to do something different. And at the time, I had been talking to my ex-boyfriend about how I, wanted to get out of that. I wanted to try something else. He was very big into business, and he had his own business, and he just had this very big business mindset. And so I remember one of the last conversations that we had, we were eating, and it was a pretty serious conversation. It was a pretty deep conversation. And I told him, we were talking about work again, and he looks at me and he goes, Gabby, you keep talking about how, you don't want to be there anymore and how you want to do something different, but you're not doing anything to do that. Or he said something along those lines. And I remember thinking, at first I was like, what the heck? Why are you saying that to me? It's the emotions. It's the emotions. Right. But then after a couple of seconds, I was like, you know what? He's right. I'm here just complaining. I'm not doing anything. And so, and that was one of the last conversations that we had. And in one of the last.
Whoa.
And so right after that was when I fell in love with the coaching, and I was like, this is what I want to do. I was I was making all the connections, okay, this is,
He gave you a little pearl to ruminate over, and then you both bounced from the relationship. I'm going to take that pearl with me. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pursue. All right.
Yeah.
It is true.
There was a lot of little pearls that he left me. There was a lot of little pearls that he left me, but
the
there's so many.
Was expired though, which is what something John says, and I don't know. I better learn a little bit more about that term before I use it. But the relationship was done, but you still had plenty that you learned from each other.
Yes, and it's funny because we never officially broke up. I created my own closure for the relationship, and I learned how to do that, and that's that was huge for me because I'm I've never been I don't know if I wouldn't say I was ghosted, but in a way I kind of was. I kept trying to have a conversation okay, if we're going to end this, let's just end it, but let's talk. Right. And then that conversation never ended up happening. There was always be an excuse for it. And so then I was just you know what? I'm done. I'm done. And then I made the decision and I said, I am done. And then I just moved on.
Did you do any kind of, some people do ceremonies. Yeah. It sucks to have a relationship sort of end a slow demise, a breakup by attrition. No one's really saying anything, or at least he wasn't, they weren't, but then it's just sort of dying slowly on the vine. And then was there a specific, ceremony, action? Did you journal something out? Did you go take a run or a hike or go pray? What?
I
All the above?
definitely, yeah, a lot of the above. It's interesting because I don't think I've mentioned this before either, but he had a daughter. He has a daughter, and I got really attached to her, and it was harder for me to get over her than it was for me to get over him.
Mm,
And that was huge for me. But I did a lot of journaling. I did a lot of, it's funny because for him, like, I'm a crier. I'm a huge crier, but for him, I didn't cry very much. But for her, anytime I would talk about her, oh my gosh, it was like the tears would start flowing. And I got so attached to her that part was hard. And it was like,
interesting.
I learned so many things about myself in that relationship and during the breakup and everything. Um, but yeah, definitely lots of journaling, lots of praying. I at the moment too, I was doing like virtual Bible studies with some friends too, and uh, they were very encouraging and they were there for me through the whole thing as well. And I think just like his actions and what he chose to do after I decided that it was over, it really was super helpful for me to be able to
Mm,
move on as well. Because I'm like, oh,
okay.
I am glad I'm out.
No, that just reinforced it. Thank you very much.
Exactly.
Okay.
Confirmation.
Okay. All right. Right. I'll take that receipt. Um,
Yeah.
so in a way, have you been, we've got to, I tell the listeners I'm honest. I'm like, I have like a little outline or else I'll fucking keep Gabriela here for like 2 hours and we'll just ramble
I
and
told you we could talk
so
forever.
I know you're totally right. So what, now that, so you're talking about how broke up, uh, got into coaching.
Yes.
What's your take on single on purpose? How has that resonated with you? And are you doing that right now? Are you open to dating? Are you sharing that kind of ethos with clients? What's it
Yeah.
like?
So, like I've mentioned to you, I love being single and I love being in a relationship.
Me
Currently, I'm
too.
single right now, and I am busy building my business and getting all of that. I am not closed off to dating, but it's not my focus right now. But I'm not closed off to it. Definitely open to it. And it's it's interesting because I think most of my life I've been single. And I know I have a lot of friends who have not been single for a long time. Like they're usually going from one relationship to another to another.
Serial monogamy or serial dating?
Yes. And I am the type that I love being single. And this isn't this wasn't always the case, but I've learned to really just love that time period, that experience, because I've learned to know myself and I've learned to be able to um, do what I want to do and just go after what I want to do and just be happy by myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is hard for some people, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Sure.
But yeah, I think being single is one of like the greatest gifts. Like if you really learn to just be in it and just allow yourself to take whatever comes with it, like I feel like you can learn so much about yourself and just prepare yourself for when the right person comes and you have that relationship. It's just going to be so much better. But I also love being in a relationship. I love love. That's one thing I always preach is like, I love being in love, and I've been in love a couple of times, and I think it's just the most beautiful thing in the world. And even though I've, had the experiences that had the relationships that I had, breakups that I've had, like I am not closed off and I am not, you know, guarding myself or wanting to not give my love because I'm afraid of being hurt. Like that's something that I've been able to heal
Mm.
and heal from. And I absolutely love that because I learning how to deal with breakups has allowed me to be able to fully give myself to people and not be afraid that if it doesn't work out, like I'm going to be fine. I know how to deal with the breakup, right?
Right.
But I would regret not giving them my all if I, hold back.
Right.
So,
Right. And that sounds super healthy and, sort of aligned and has a lot of integrity. And what I've said about being single, especially with the coaching work that I do and the people I talk to and my own personal experience is, and unfortunately people listening to the podcast are going to hear this one little part of the story like 18 times after all these different podcasts. But no, when I divorced and I was already sober, I was already abstinent from my bottom line bullshit.
Yeah.
Porn, the dangerous sex, the emotional cheating, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But we got divorced anyway. And that said, it's a very good divorce, very good co-parenting, good relationship. Divorce was necessary and healthy. But then my sponsor and my therapist at the time were like, and you're taking a year off. I was like, what the fuck? At first I was like, no, dude. I'm like, what was I? It's years ago. I wasn't even 40. I'm 49 now. I wasn't even 40 yet. And I was like, dude, I'm in like my late 30s. I'm in my prime. I'm going to get out there.
Yeah.
Let's pack it up. What the fuck? And they were like, no, you're not. And it was crucial for the same reasons that you're saying. Get to know myself. Get to just have a day and a month and a year with myself, day in and day out. Pay attention. I'm journaling. I'm doing my 12-step stuff. I'm doing all the things I don't use should. I don't use that word very often, but the things that were healthy for me to do.
Yeah.
And that I was being guided to do. And it was also crucial because it's true that I went into that last relationship, that marriage, in the addiction, started to sober up in the marriage. But now they were totally right. Like the whole world was availed, and I could have fucked that up easily without the same kind of, without the same kind of Obi-Wan's guiding me, right? I could have just gone off the deep end. And that's okay. People lose their sobriety all the time, behavioral addiction or, substance abuse. And then they come back on. It's like, okay, take that as a fucking lesson, a hard one, but let's keep going forward. But it was important that they set those guardrails, those boundaries for me, because then I could do and focus on what you're talking about. There wasn't any distraction, in my, the sort of sine wave of emotions and sexuality and need for intimacy and sensuality and all of that. It wasn't like this like neon light. It was like, how about I just be here right now and get to know myself?
Yeah.
And also, because it's so crucial, see what I can do with my recovery by myself. Do I need, and one crucial thing, Gabriela, was that it was important for me to learn that I don't need somebody else. Not only in the sense that you're talking about, I'm good with myself.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, my career, my this, my that, all the things that I want to pursue and do. But also I can be sober on my own. I can still keep my program of recovery. Not fuck around. I don't need someone as like a bulwark or a fire door, I can just do it. And with my sense of a higher power and all of that and the fellowship, and it's not right. It's not me alone. It's not solo, but still not having that bulwark, that kind of like, almost like, ooh, I don't want to fuck that up because of the relationship. No, I don't want to fuck it up because of me.
For me. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to keep my integrity. So.
That's awesome. So did you end up enjoying that year that at first you were like, what?
I did. I'd have to go back to my journaling and stuff to find out what was going on. But I did, because the end of the divorce, all divorces, well, I'm going to say most divorces suck. And ours was actually pretty amicable, but tempers would still flare. And so what was important was that I had that year and could go through the emotions of the wake of the divorce, and all my emotions could cool, right?
Yeah.
And I could get to learn how to navigate now divorce, post-divorce life, and co-parenting. And I had to start from the bottom. I don't know how much of that story I've even told like John or anybody, but I didn't have a car, a job, or many prospects when we divorced. And I gave everything up too. I was like, keep the house, keep everything. You've got the kids. We're going to work this all out. But just the circumstances were pretty shitty. I totaled a car. I had to bounce to like a couple different places to live, and I had to get a new job real fucking quickly. So yeah. So why would I be fucking around as a recovering sex and love addiction addict anyway, with
Yeah.
involving somebody else or bringing someone in as like some kind of weird need or craving that maybe
Yeah.
isn't coming from a healthy place. Instead, why don't I get a fucking roof over my head and make some money and get out of debt and pay, the bills that I owe and all that shit.
As much as you're making it sound like it's common sense, it's really not common sense. And a lot of people don't think that. A lot of people think, you know what, I'm going to, go find someone. Like, I don't want to be alone. Like, just go find someone and
blanket.
do it. Yeah.
Right. As opposed to like a more even keeled need or want for a relationship. No, totally. Like, like security blanket or like pacifier. No, totally.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll just do me. But I did fight them at first. I didn't fight them, but I was like, bitch, what? I was really annoyed because I want to just go out. I want to go back out to California, meet up with my old high school buddies who I'm still in touch with, right? 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Like, let's go to the, and they're all married. It was like, let's go to the bar. And it's like fucking, like, let me be the drunk asshole and you guys take care of me. No. So anyway, they kept me on the straight and narrow. Before we're too far along, so of course we're already like a half hour into this without even.
Oh, jeez.
So let me pivot kind of hard. Sorry for the 90-degree turn, everybody. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. Let us know what's up with masculine and feminine energies and why that current focus or sort of a newer focus, is that fair to say, of your coaching style or attention? What's that about?
Yeah, definitely. So I recently started learning about masculine and feminine energy, and it really, really got my attention because I realized that I had been operating out of my masculine energy for the longest time. And even in my relationships, I feel like that's what was really messing me up. And I started learning that what I really wanted was to feel safe, to be safe, and to allow myself to be more in my feminine energy. But I didn't know it at the time. But learning what I did, it was all starting to make sense. And I had to do so much work within myself. So a brief description of what masculine and feminine energy is.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you like the jackass that I am, but people are so hip to attachment styles and shadow work, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm like baby nuts, like training wheels, kindergarten with that stuff, and with masculine and feminine energy. Like offhand, I have an idea of what you're talking about. Explain to those of us, like more people listening, specifically what you mean.
Yeah, definitely. So the masculine energy is, very driven, very logical. You want to get from point A to point B. Okay, let's do this. Very assertive. It's the provider. It's the protector. When you think of, and I was, we were talking about earlier about, that protective father figure that you think of, that's like the masculine energy. The feminine energy is more of just, someone who's more in touch with your emotions, someone that is very grounded, and the energies, they are something that just it's just energy, right? It's just energy. Everybody has both masculine and feminine energies. The feminine energy is a lot more soft. It's gentle, it's that nurturing side of us. And like I said, I realized that I was acting way more out of my masculine energy in my relationships. Like I wanted the control. I wanted to be the one to make the decisions. I wanted to always be I guess you could say even like the head of the relationship.
The alpha?
The alpha? Yeah, exactly.
But is that okay?
It can be. Yes.
Okay.
It totally can be. But like I said, I was realizing that what I really wanted deep internally, like what I really wanted was to be more in my feminine. Obviously, and that's when it comes to relationships.
Okay.
Yes. Because obviously when I am working on my business, that's a very, I have to get stuff done. and I turn my masculine energy on and I get stuff done and I just do it, right? When I'm at the gym, my masculine energy gets on all the way and I'm there and I focus and I'm there for what I do and that's it.
Like,
and
don't push me, bro. Like, I'm
pretty much.
Like, don't even like fuck with it. Yeah. Like, do you
Pretty
see the
much.
force field right now? I'm in my zone. Don't fuck around.
But there's times where I want to be in my feminine energy, and I want to, explore that side. And so just having that balance. But as far as relationships, that's where I realized I really wanted to just be more in my feminine and not so much in my masculine. I was not the type of person to tell you what I was feeling or to express my emotions. When I was stuck in my masculine energy, I really wanted to, I would just bottle everything in and I would build that resentment. And then one day, obviously, everything would come out. I would explode.
Silence.
Yes. But in that sense, in my past relationships, I was always in my masculine and I was afraid to open up. I was afraid to be vulnerable. I was afraid to, tell people how I really feel.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I tell you that's what I really wanted to change, is that mainly that all of that stuff and just letting go of the control and letting myself be loved and, be protected and,
Mm-hmm.
and, have that different side.
Yeah. Well, and people talk so much. I mean, everybody from like big names like Brene Brown to just plenty of the coaches, therapists,
Yes,
shamans, astrologers, anyone talking about energy or psychology or emotions or chemistry. I'm losing my train of thought. It has mentioned a balance, but also, I lost it. I'm gonna go back to what we were talking about before we started to record, though.
yeah.
Which was, do you think that and I'll try to get that thread. Sorry, everybody, that I just lost ADHD town. I'll try to get it back. But before we were recording, we were talking about parenting and your folks.
Yes.
And that your mother, I think you said your mother was more of the
Masculine energy.
typified the masculine. Okay.
Yes.
And do you think that it was sort of bequeathed then? You kind of learned from her or not
Oh,
necessarily?
yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And even taking it back to my grandma. I recently went to Mexico because my grandpa, he wasn't doing so well, and so I ended up going to help out, and it was just so funny. Like, I was just so aware of how with all this training that I've had and now that I'm a life coach and just watching the dynamics of their relationship, like so many things made sense. And I was like, okay, that's where that comes from. That's the reason why my mom is that way, and it was that whole thing where I was talking about how, when women are more in their masculine energy, they tend to attract more passive men. And it all comes back to that polarity. Someone has to be more masculine and then someone has to be more feminine. Otherwise, it's going to be a very hard relationship, whether that's whatever gender it is. It doesn't, you said, does it have to be that way earlier? And I'm like, no, a woman can be more masculine and the man or, whatever can be more in their feminine. But as long as, one is more on one end, the other one is more on the other, that's where like the polarity starts to work.
So what's
ahead.
the implication? What's the implication of, it was one of your more recent shares, and I think it might be an ad, and feel free to plug. I don't know when this podcast is going to come out, but I think it was an ad for like a mini get together, or retreat, or confab that you are like hosting or something. I think it seemed like it was a group of folks who were getting together all at once, and maybe I'm wrong.
Yes, no, you're right.
But when you mentioned as part of that ad or that share that women who are, correct me if I'm putting words in your mouth, are not wanting or are frustrated by a passive partner because they're too masculine, and then that person becomes too feminine or quote unquote passive, what's the implication? Like, is it because that's not what they want and that's what they keep attracting? Is it like a law of attraction thing?
A little bit. But yeah, definitely. I feel like it's like I was talking about the whole polarity thing. When you're more in your masculine, you're gonna attract someone more in their feminine, someone who's lacking that masculinity, and so that's kind of where they start to connect. Or I don't know how to describe it. And this is something super new to me that I am just starting to research, and something that I'm working on. It's my next project that I have coming up, and so because yeah, it's a trend that I've been just really seeing with very highly independent women that have owned their own businesses, and they're single. And they're like, why the heck am I still single? And why do I keep attracting the same males that, you know, my guess and is that they are wanting a masculine figure as a, you know, as a partner, but they're not attracting that. And the reason for that is because they're stuck in their masculine. So they're attracting the opposite, which is someone more in their feminine energy, someone more passive, someone more, you know, needing what she is providing.
Okay. Well, then we'll have to come back like at a part 2 when we're not already like 40 minutes in and just really get into what you're you know studying and boning up on and getting to know. So we'll definitely come back around to it, because for me it's also interesting because there are like a share I did today was both overlapping the all of this emotional, spiritual, psychological work as far as individuals, how we interact, like you're saying,
yes,
this next partner, this next potential partner, what's their energy, what's mine, where are they coming from, where am I coming from, and what baggage do we bring? But also, I'm big on the cultural part of it, right? I mean, not only do I work in those areas. I mean, you said going down to Mexico. I'm sure there's plenty you could speak on as far as a particular culture and roles, just like we could about America. Whether it's Mexico, America, Japan, Russia, you know, I mean, there are these sort of dictated roles, and we tend to get stuck in them if we don't have the awareness around them culturally, much less emotionally. And it was just even a share today that I was going over, like, you know, not only do I have to, it's the nature and nurture thing. So maybe the nature is the stuff that's come from hundreds of years of, you know, hundreds, thousands of years of evolutionary stuff and emotional and psychological, but also the cultural, and you know what, like you said, you saw your own traits that you thought were from your mom, from your grandma as well, and so carry down that way. And so I'm always trying to leave a little door open for that. And sometimes I get scared of it because people think I'm trying to get political or whatever, and I am very political.
No.
Don't get me wrong. When we're not recording, we can go all day on, you know, anything going on in America right now that anybody wants to opine on. That's not the place for it right here, but I'm saying that there is that part as well. There's energetic, there's emotional, there's our upbringing, and then there's also that last little bit. Like,
definitely.
You know, how men are. We were sharing before we got on that I was raised by a single mom until I was 9 or 10. And I developed very late. So I think I told you I looked like a 6th grader when I was in 9th and 10th grade. Right? I was like, Jesus Christ, when are the balls going to drop and some hair grow? And and so I always tended to early on, and not having any, I had some good uncles who were actually very good role models, but I wasn't living with them day in and day out. And they really were. I thank God just even for those 2 men, you know, because I had one dad who abandoned at birth, and then another dad who didn't go so great, you know, off and on once he was in the picture when I was 10, 11, 12. Yeah. And so I always felt like I was very in touch with my feminine side because I was raised for so much by my mom, just the 2 of us. Then my cousins, you know, of the 17 of us, first cousins, only 4 of us were boys. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of feminine energy always around. A lot of women I was always interacting with and socialized by, and again, acculturated by. But
I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
So since you say that you've been more in touch in your feminine side, which I did a live with a different coach a few days ago, and we talked about how her and I were both on the same page that we love a man that can be in his feminine energy and isn't afraid to be in his feminine energy. Just having that balance, right? Because I feel like some people will go way over and just want to be in their masculine all the time or be in their feminine all the time. But I feel like there has to be that balance and, you know, that little game of dancing with both energies. But for you, like, since you said you felt like you were more in your feminine energy, do you feel like you attracted more women in their masculine energy?
Wow, it's a great question. And the very short answer is probably yes. I think in my marriage, my now divorced, my ex-wife, I think, see, I have to be careful because I don't necessarily know what I'm talking about in that realm, other than what I feel and have experienced. And I can say two things, and then I'm like, wait, am I walking in stereotypes or not? So I'm going to be careful with what I say. She and I were both very strong-willed. So I do have, and here's another thing. Now I'm going to throw another like woo-woo layer and go like, not woo-woo, I didn't mean that disparagingly, but we're both Sagittariuses. We both came from abuse and neglect, and we both had to parent, like we were the parents. We parented our parents, right? So then there's that. Lots of similar maladaptive qualities because we had to fucking survive as kids.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think as much as I was in touch with, well, it's my mom, and that's kind of when I go and meet people in school, when I was a schoolboy and then going into junior high, and then it started changing around high school necessarily, there was a lot more feminine because I felt like more open and vulnerable. And I was not beating on my chest, gorilla style, hyper masculine at all in junior high, even when the hormones were all like exploding and frontal lobe and adolescence and turning into a teenager and all that. That said, I think there was a part of this, like my expired relationship with my divorce, where we were both maybe overcompensating. And if you want to call that masculine, sure, because we needed control. So there's also something about trauma and loss and addiction. And we both had that on in our respective families. And when you put it together, holy shit. Alpha personalities, creative, both very right-brained, both artists, both Sages, and both coming from these traumatic experiences where I got to control. Like I got to be who's the boss? And that was very hard to negotiate. So I can say that for sure with that relationship. Other relationships I'd have to go one by one, and we're definitely not going to do that right now.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But as a sort of epilogue to that, share my current relationship, because I think I was talking with you a little bit about that, is I'm pretty fucking good now at listening more than mansplaining or overtalking. I know I've interrupted you like 18 times during this podcast, but that's just, I'm going to put it on my ADHD, not on some chauvinism, not on some latent chauvinism. But all of this work, I tend to think of a lot of this work as abetting or helping, not abetting, strengthening the feminine, but at the same time, stepping into whatever energy is more helpful, more useful, more healthy in a given moment. So right? And I'm not trying to like make it all I idealized or anything, but when I've had, and I did have that conversation before we recorded with my girlfriend, we're pretty new, but we're having a great time, and it's we're both middle-aged, and so we have a lot of water under our bridges, and I'm just about the communicating. Putting it out there, whatever energy that's coming from. I'm also listening more than I used to. Yeah. And also, Gabriela, I'm not nearly as triggered as quickly as I am. And if I am, I'm cooling and then responding rather than reacting. And I'm not saying it's perfect. It's ugly. There are conversations that don't end well. There's like a half day where no one's talking. It's like, okay, just go to your neutral corners. But when we
That's
have,
awesome.
yeah, I mean, I'm really grateful when we have had, again, we're new, but we're still kind of even in the honeymoon phase. It's been like a handful of months. When it's been difficult, there's been a lot of like listening, share, listen, share, listen. And I think that comes from our respective therapy backgrounds, and also a really strong desire this late in the game, 45 years old and 49 years old, the two of us, to be like, hey, this is really good right now, and holy shit, we met each other middle age. Let's listen and not repeat, the fuck ups, the stumbles of the past. So,
I love that. It's so funny because I think about this sometimes. I'm like, I wonder how my next relationship is going to be. Like, knowing what I know now, like, I want to put this stuff into practice and see if it's actually, it's a lot of things, it's easier said than done, right? And I can preach about things and I can talk about how we should be doing certain things. And then when it comes to actually doing it, I'm like, wait, what? So exactly. So I love to see that you're practicing, all those things. And I hope to also be doing that in my next relationship. But sometimes I get very curious. Like, I wonder if, how I think I need to be in my next relationship or how I want to show up in my next relationship. I wonder if I'm actually going to. So I'm very curious about that.
Well, I think we may actually be coming to the end of our little show here, because I think that sort of encapsulates, it'd be cool if we came back. Maybe you're in a relationship then, maybe you're not.
Yeah.
I'll give an update on mine, and then we'll hear more about, how you've grown with this work with your clients, and you work with only women, is that right?
I do,
that's
yes.
by design.
Currently, okay. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah,
that may change in the future, but for now, it's just women.
Okay, got it. No, that's great. And do you want to? I don't know. You should plug. I mean, you're all over Instagram. Are you on Facebook too?
I am not doing much on Facebook.
Not doing much there. Do you have
I cannot keep track of too many social medias.
Yeah. I don't know how people are doing like
I
that
don't know.
and TikTok and Instagram. I'm like, dude, what do you do in your day besides batch? I know the Gabriela batches all the time, but what do you do besides that? So we'll have to come back around to all this, but I appreciate you jumping on, and I'm trying to figure out a way, if you want to share something again, like a sort of wrap it all up. I mean, it's single on purpose. We're talking about feminine and masculine, and that maybe that's what people can discover when they're in between relationships, and try not to run to the next one.
Yes. Right?
And just be with yourself, and then maybe they can get a barometer, check the temperature on like masculine, feminine. What does that mean for me?
Right.
What do you have?
Which one are you in the most? And figuring all that stuff out beforehand. It's very helpful.
Versus feminine energy, and also I gotta be careful not be like just completely heteronormative, because it could be two people who are of the same gender or identifies however they identify and still have those energies. Right?
Oh, everybody has
those energies.
Yeah, everybody has masculine and feminine energy, no matter what gender you are, and that's where the polarity. Yeah, exactly. That's where the polarity thing comes in, and it's just So, yeah.
All right. Well, we'll come back another time, and thank you for this. See, we did go over the 45 minutes. I was trying to shut the fuck up and keep going. I think it's a pretty good story. It's good to introduce, and get to talk about this a little bit. And yeah, we'll have to come back.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. I love talking about this kind of stuff.
I'm glad I do. Thanks for your time, Gabriela.
You're welcome.
Take care. Bye.
You too.
I hope that episode was helpful. Hey, listen, if you want to share your singlehood journey, if you've gone somewhere and come back, if you have revelations and wisdom, please share your story. It's going to help other people. Nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing other people's stories. So just send me the audio of your story, and you could just record it directly from your phone and email it to theangrytherapist@gmail.com. Also, if you want our Single on Purpose newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life. You will get tools and articles and other people's stories, and also Zoom links to private gathers. So if you want to join our community, go to singleonpurpose.life. Thank you for listening. Be well. We hope you tell a friend. Hey, before you go, I want to invite you to the Single on Purpose private community online. It's off of social media, no ads, no algorithms. We got forums, we got live groups, we got webinars, and we have social hangs. We also have offline in-person hangs happening soon. So check us out. Go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life, and I will see you inside.